Cheers from London. It's been a while. I've been in Romania and Canada and will be sneaking back through the US quite soon to visit some family. But it's been quite busy. I've been working on my systematic lit review, which is 80% of my grade for research methods. So obviously, I want to do a good job on that, and I have another week to tighten it up and then submit it. So that's been quite fun. And I will have my research proposal, which will be due in about a month. So I'll be working on that through my next travels. I will have a mock assessment for biomechanics in about a month, and I will have my final write-up for advanced physiology due roughly at the same time. So research proposal, mock assessment, final written assessment, all due within like 3 days of each other. So going to be quite the busy month. And in addition to that, I am currently in training for the British University Championships, Bucks. That will be in about a month. So, needless to say, it's going to be quite busy. But it's been good. Loving London still. And the Londoners can all thank me for wishing for snow because they've gotten it quite a lot lately, and I'm loving it. It's snowy today. Perfect day for a St. Patrick's Day parade, like a day late. But last weekend I attended the ninth annual Strength and Conditioning Student Conference at Middlesex, and we had 4 different speakers. And after every speaker, we had tea and biscuits. So very British-like. Speaker, tea, and biscuits. Speaker, tea, and biscuits. So needless to say, I had a lot of tea and biscuits. But one of the presenters was speaking about long-term athlete development and early sport specialization. So I wanted to chat about that a bit today because in the US, we talk about how terrible it is to do early sport specialization where your kid just plays the same sport for years and years and years and years. And then, at high school, they are experiencing injuries that were formerly only happening in, pro levels, ACLs or Tommy Johns, elbow surgery for those of you that don't know. But the UK takes it a bit different. And it was actually quite interesting to see because they do actually have some of their athletes specialize very, very young. And one of the big differences that I saw is with this particular group, they took early sport specialization quite a bit different than in the US, where in the US they're like, oh, in order for my kid to be really good at this sport, they need to play it like 20 hours a week, like no days off, all that bullshit, where they think that if the kid plays more, he'll get more exposure, he'll see more playing time, he'll automatically be better just from playing the sport. And then what happens is these young kids don't have time off. They go from high school season to club season, back to high school season. So they have to be peaked at all times, which is a bit ridiculous to do. If you are slamming on the gas, eventually you're going to run out of gas. That car is going to die and you're going to be stranded on the side of the road. Same thing with athletes. If you are peaking constantly, you're going to get injured. Now, as that relates to long-term athlete development, early sport specialization, this particular group takes it quite a bit different. So while they do have the kids playing these sports, they also look at it from a developmental standpoint. So they do, in point of fact, look at their physiological age. So, when kids hit puberty, they have different growth rates. The kid who's the tallest kid in 5th grade is suddenly the shortest kid by the time everyone gets to high school. So everyone develops at a different rate. But what this particular group seemed to do was take their athletes and they make them athletes. So rather than just being football players or, any other sport, they take them into the weight room. They make them stronger, but they also teach them through games and whatever, proper running form, proper movement. They make it fun. So it's not just about the sport, like you have to play this sport all the time. They're like, okay, well, you are playing the sport, so you are getting the skills you need in order to do the sport, but you're also getting all of the other stuff, proprioceptive awareness, that gangly kid that can't control himself, like he needs to work on it. He needs to, as he's growing and his feet are this big, but his legs are this big, eventually he's gonna be awkward for a while. But if you take that into account and you are working on, stuff like, can you skip appropriately? Do you know how to fall down? Do you know how to cut properly? And, teaching these kids how to move well and be all around players, be all around athletes, not just be football players, is quite a unique take on it because here, obviously, football is big business. I think the stat I saw was the costliest team is worth 757 million pounds. I think it's million. Pretty sure it's million because otherwise it'd be ridiculous. But 700 million pounds. I can't convert that to dollars, sorry. But that's a lot of money. So obviously you want to take care of your kids. And this particular program does, like they start them very young and they invest in the process. And it's not just investing in the process in terms of like, okay, kids, you're going to be on this travel squad. You're going to play, you're going to practice, all the time. You're going to play all the time. Like if you're not in practice, you're playing. And if you're not playing, you're going to be in practice. And if you're not in season, you're going to be doing something else, sport related. But it was nice to see videos of these coaches not doing sport-specific skills, doing this is how you move your body through space. This is how you stay strong. This is how you stay resilient. This is how we work through those awkward years where everyone's growing at a different rate, and being able to classify which athletes are, the ones that are in a growth spurt or about to be in a growth spurt or just came off of a growth spurt, because that's definitely important in terms of athlete development, but like long-term athlete development. If you teach these kids how to move correctly when they're young, it's more likely to stick. So if you think about it in terms of do it right the first time, because then you don't have to reteach it. I mean, that's a great thing to think about. But I think that's thus far one of the bigger differences that I've seen between the UK and the US in regards to sport training, where we're like, oh my God, you need to stop like this early sport specialization. The UK approaches it quite differently, and they're like, okay, if we're going to have you specialize, then we're going to take care of you from the start. We're going to make sure that you continue to be an all-around athlete and not just a football player. Whereas in the US, it seems to be more like little Johnny has to play football constantly, all the time. Or, like I saw it quite frequently working in the private sector where they would go, like volleyball players would go from their high school season straight into their club season, and then from club season they would go play outdoor, and from outdoor they would go play back into their school season, and then they're like, oh, my shoulder hurts. Well, okay, cool. When was the last time you had a day off? When was the last time you took any sort of break from your sport whatsoever? So it's kind of interesting to think about two different systems and how they approach long-term athlete development and early sport specialization, because I believe those are like very highly linked areas. So it's quite a unique thing to see, which is why I came over here actually, to kind of see the different systems and to be sitting in a conference where they're literally talking about they specialize these kids at the age of 10, whereas we're like, oh my God, you need to play all these different sports. And so it's a unique perspective to see how the UK links long-term athlete development with early sports specialization, and how the US primarily just focuses on early sports specialization and then worries about long-term athlete development a bit later. A lot of times it seems that most of the sports systems don't take that into consideration until these kids get to college, and by then they might already be so beat up that they're coming into college with back problems and knee problems and shoulder problems and all these different problems that they really shouldn't have because they're kids. Like, if you're going to specialize, then you need to make sure that you're doing it in a balanced way. If you want little Susie to be great at volleyball, then do the things outside of volleyball that are going to support that, i.e. strength training. There's nothing wrong with an athlete learning how to sprint properly, proper sprint mechanics. You talk about basic human movements, tumbling, cartwheels, all of these basic athletic things that people should be able to do. But I have worked with athletes that had no idea how to skip, and I never thought in my career I would have to teach someone how to skip. I just thought that was something that you did at recess at the age of 5, skipping through the park. I just thought that was a natural thing. So to be able to need to teach someone how to skip was quite an eye-opener. But now, having been in the industry for a while, it's interesting to kind of take a step back and look at it. And I'm quite happy that I went to the conference because it's giving me that different perspective that I was looking for. Now, granted, I'm learning a lot more about soccer than I had ever planned in my life, but I am in the land of soccer fanatics. I live right next to Wembley Stadium. Game days are a nightmare, especially because it's like swimming upstream in a sea of humans about 2 blocks long and 20 people wide, queued up for the train to get out. But this is what I came to do, to get an education and to see the world from somewhere new, and to see what I have chosen as my profession from a different angle, to take a step back and see the world, literally and metaphorically. But to that end, I'd like to hear what you have to say about early sports specialization, your thoughts, and your thoughts on long-term athlete development. Bye.